Hello.
Oh, hey there, Nathan. How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I am good. I thankfully kept it on in case you got on a little later.
Yeah, because I want to drop my friend off to buy something at Walmart, so that's why I even forgot about it and went on my way, and I was like, "Oh, I'm late. I gotta go back."
That's okay. Are you ready to do the class now, or do you want me to do the recording and you watch the recording? Are you in a place where you can do class,
Either
or
way, either way will work for me. Or
okay?
we can just take probably an hour if it
Yeah,
seems big.
yeah.
Um,
We can take about an hour. That's good. That works for me. I'm just going to just close my door, and then we can
uh,
just run through this week real quick. Thanks. So, how is your week going so far?
my week is going wonderful.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, your grades looking pretty good for week 1 and week 2, so that was good. How are your assignments coming for this week? I think I haven't seen your discussion or your assessment or assignment yet, but I know you have 2 classes, so it's a pretty busy schedule for you. So just wondering kind of how that's going.
Well, it's going pretty good. It's going pretty good, and the hard part about it when I gotta write a lot of things, follow the rules, and that's the hard part, what I
Yeah.
got right. Because I usually, I'm okay with that, but I usually prefer when I can just answer questions, reading stuff, then writing stuff, And I found out about this application where I can just probably talk, and it's just typing stuff for me down. Because
Oh,
I'm good about speaking than writing. Because when I'm writing, always come short with ideas. When I can
yeah.
speak, I can have multiple ideas, and I can think normally than writing.
Oh, yeah. Some people, it's just that, yeah, they think better when they speak as opposed to when they write. Okay, well, that's very good. I'm sure that's going to be very helpful for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. Did you get a chance to watch the recording?
Oh yeah, I try. I think that was about 40 something minutes.
Yeah. And so we talked, it was all about decision making. So tell me a little bit about what you thought about some of those ideas, some of those strategies, and kind of those steps to making good decisions.
What I understand about making decision, I gotta probably reach out to my teammates and people around me before to take a decision when
Yeah.
it comes to business and work. And because it's not because I'm a supervisor or a manager, I can probably know all at all. I
Yeah.
gotta reach out to teammates or people that are surrounding myself so I can probably get the idea and we all can make decision together.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely. I have to agree with you. You've got to surround yourself by people, with people, and make decisions together because one perspective is not enough, especially if you're running a big company. You need lots of perspective, and people have different expertise in different areas and different departments that you may not have, and you need to hear them out. And you need to get that information from them so that you can all make the best decisions, right? So I definitely agree with that. So yeah, decision making truly is one of the biggest things in business that we've got to learn to do. And we talked a little bit about programmed and unprogrammed decisions. Programmed decisions are when you know what to do in a situation because you have rules and policies and procedures. Unprogrammed is when something comes up like a crisis and you've got to quickly make a decision based on what's going on, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So you know what I'm going to do? There's a couple of videos in this week's readings and tools. Let's watch one or two of them, and then as we watch them, let's discuss afterwards more about them, because what we're going to talk about is called, let me just find where is it gone now? Not decision-making process. Got to find the wording. Oh, yeah. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats associated with the decision-making process, okay? So there are always strengths and weaknesses that we each have, and with the decisions and with the situation, right? And then there are always opportunities and threats. I mean, we've got to understand, if you make a decision, what are all the threats? What are the risks? And you've got to think about that before you make a decision and implement it. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and let's share the screen. So what you should see on your screen, can you see week 3 readings and tools?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. So this one, we've done all these. I covered them in our previous session. So I'm going down here to strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats associated with decision making. So let's get into this real quick today and see what they have for us. And then, like I said, we can discuss each one.
Okay. Attention.
Hi, my name is Erica Olson. This whiteboard session is on putting together your SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, before you push the pause button, I'm here to tell you that we are going to talk today about how to make a SWOT work for your organization and be useful, and not just an exercise of putting together a 2x2 matrix. All right, so let's get started. Strengths, when we identify them, what do we do with them? We capitalize on them. Weaknesses, we shore them up. Opportunities, we invest in. And threats, we identify. So let's break this down one step further. This is internal. Okay, so these are items that are internal, super important. This, external. The minute we confuse the two, we have a big mess on our hands and the SWOT is no longer useful. So let's address a confusing point. Yes, weaknesses are also opportunities. People don't like that language all the time. So if you don't like the word weakness, call it area of opportunity. Okay, but the point is stuff that we can control and stuff that we cannot control, but we can impact. So let's talk about the internal side for just a moment. We need to collect data to populate the SWOT. We could create it on our own on the fly, but you know, that's kind of like putting a strategic plan or a strategy together in a vacuum. So I don't think you should do that. We want to get information into the SWOT based on customer feedback, your surveys, focus groups, however it is that you gather.
Turn the volume up for the video, because it's kind of
it's at the highest that I can get it. Let me see over here. It's at 100% on both my computer and on the video.
Oh, okay. I'll try.
Can you try and turn it up from your side?
Right.
Information via employee survey. And we're looking for things.
Is it better now?
It's better.
Okay. And I'm sorry if my head is facing this way, because I have 2 screens. So the screen that I have you on is here, and I have the video there. So I'm watching the video.
Oh.
So I know it looks a little weird.
Yeah.
Such as specifically capabilities. What capabilities do we have that are strengths or weaknesses? Resources, money, brand, building, assets, that type of stuff that we have or don't have that are working for us. And processes, things that we do, those internal processes that we do that are either great or not great. For example, a lot of times people think a weakness is communication. Communication, of course, is a process. Kind of a nice way to think about that, ends up in the weakness box. Let's move over to opportunities. External, what are we looking for? We're looking for secondary data that tells us something about our environment. Okay, what are we talking about there? Not the trees necessarily. I'm talking about mortgage rates, interest rates, data that impacts our business. That's the environmental information. That's secondary. Industry data. Okay, so what's happening in our industry? Maybe from your industry associations, that type of thing. And competitive data. Okay, all of these are secondary data sources. For the most part, sometimes people hire out obtaining competitive data, that's up to you, but for the most part, those are secondary data sources. The other thing that does go over here as well, however, is some customer feedback, which would be primary data, right? Stuff that we collect ourselves that deal with maybe opportunities or threats and are not necessarily related to some things that we're doing internally. So we have all this. Normally we have bullet points all over the place. What do we do with it? Well, we want to actually take this information and create a list of ideas that we would then drop into goal statements. Okay, so this is again, big pet peeve of mine. We have this whole exercise of putting a SWOT together and we do nothing with it because we don't know what to do with it. I'm here to tell you, and we'll look at how we identify ideas in a moment, a list of ideas that then get sort of fleshed out or prioritized, and we end up developing goals and action items or objectives, whatever the case may be, in your strategic plan. So how do we come up with these ideas? Here's how we do it. We take our strengths and we match them up with opportunities. That's one thing. Another way to generate ideas is to match up weaknesses with strengths. So, i.e., do we have a strength that can offset a weakness of ours, or do we have a strength that will help us to capitalize or invest in an opportunity that's out there? Threats we need to be aware of, but one thing that we can do is say, are there opportunities that will offset these threats? Okay, so my big tip for you is, first of all, make sure that you're informing the SWOT development effectively. That means getting the data that we talked about, not just being a management team exercise around a round table. Okay, and the second thing then is make sure we do something with it, because the whole purpose is to inform our strategy development with great information. Use this tool to suss it out, and then develop some great goals so you can move your organization forward.
Right, awesome, very interesting. That is the SWOT analysis. Is, gosh, so many businesses use that acronym SWOT to make decisions. Even still today, it's actually quite an old and outdated technique, but it still works today. When you have a decision to make, to draw that diagram and say, okay, what are the strengths here? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats? And so it's things you've got to consider when you're making decisions. You know, you've got to, as a business owner or a manager or a supervisor, when you make a decision, it affects everything. So you've got to first think about the impact on everything, right? And I think that's what she's getting at. Does it make sense to you?
It does.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the SWOT technique to make decisions? No. Okay. Well, and even when you have like your own decision to make, like let's say you want to look at a new job, or you want to think about changing your location or traveling or whatever, you know, a SWOT analysis is a good way to make decisions. Like if you can't make a decision or you can't come up with the right decision, you can do that for yourself personally as well. But yeah, it really works in business, and it's something that I use a lot. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, so really interesting process, decision-making process. Not all decisions turn out the way they're expected to turn out. Here are some examples. Okay, this is going to be a very interesting one. The 15 worst business decisions ever. Wow, okay. I want to see that.
Okay.
Let's have a look. 15 worst business decisions ever. Goodness, okay.
Dica was to you.
ABCMouse.com is so fun. There's a ton of things to do.
Sorry.
Corporate marketing wasn't
Commercial.
compromising on liquor ingredients and paying the price. We count 15 times companies have made awful decisions for greed, ignorance, or desperation. Number 15. It was 1977. Star Wars hadn't even been released when 20th Century Fox did the dumbest thing ever. They handed all merchandising rights to George Lucas. In return, all they got was a measly $20,000 for the time. But George became the head of a $3 billion plus company with reach all over the globe, its profits continuing to grow with each passing day. Fox had absolutely no idea what Star Wars would become, and for this blunder, they missed out on claiming one of the most lucrative media franchise trademarks ever. Number 14. Before
Wow.
The Cosby Show passed into the hands of NBC, becoming a huge hit right from the first season, ABC passed on their chance to get a slice of the pie.
That's
Cosby
Bill
made
Cosby right there.
ABC for the show, but they wouldn't offer him a commitment without a script or pilot ready. So instead, he turned to NBC, where it catapulted from third in the Nielsen ratings to first for 5 more entire seasons.
Did you guys ever watch The Cosby Show? Did you ever see that?
Yes, ma'am. That Bill Cosby right there.
Yeah, right. Super cool, hey? Yeah, yeah. I loved it. When I was little, we used to watch it all the time growing up. I loved The Cosby Show.
He's in jail now. Do you know that?
It went on to become the biggest
Say that again?
hit of the
Bill Cosby is in jail.
Oh, yes, that's right. All those allegations, yes. But that happened now later in his life. Unfortunately, yeah, that wasn't so cool, right?
I know, right?
What a pity, hey, because he was such a star and such a wonderful man, and the way he came across on the screen and with his family, and it was, I really enjoyed him very much when I was younger.
Oh, yeah?
It's a pity he's in jail.
1980s and almost single-handedly revived the sitcom genre. Number 13, 1981, the blockbuster hit E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Steven Spielberg approached Mars, the confectionery company, to feature M&Ms as a small plot device in the film. The chief executives at Mars declined outright, and the producers behind E.T. were forced to go with their second choice, Hershey and their Reese's Pieces. When the film was released, Reese's Pieces were having dire sales, but then E.T. came along, and sales of the candy triples, with reorders coming in as many as 10 times a day for over 2 weeks.
Wow.
Mars, pissed at the missed opportunity, heavily implied they'd never even received an offer. Number 12, Kodak. We're in the age of rapidly advancing technology, with the first digital cameras only appearing in the early 90s. But 15 years earlier, in 1975, Kodak made the world's first ever digital camera with a patent ready for mass production. But they did nothing, and so let their competitors invent it first. The reason? Kodak didn't want to destroy the film industry and subsequently damage their own company. But had they produced this revolution for mass market, you might have ended up with a Kodak brand smartphone. Instead, they went bankrupt in 2012.
That's crazy.
Obscurity. Number 11, Schlitz beer. Back in the 70s, Schlitz was one of the biggest beer manufacturing companies in all of America, only behind Budweiser. Then they made a fatal decision to cheapen the ingredients in order to produce beer faster, which for a while worked quite well. But then people began to notice that the beer would form floaties in the bottom, which congealed into thick mucus. And Schlitz didn't recall them even after they realized. Eventually they had to cave in, but not after 10 million cans had been shipped, crippling their finances and ending their juggernaut company not even 10 years later. Number 10, it was in the 90s that search engines on the internet were few and far between. You had Yahoo, Excite, and Lycos. Myself, I used Webcrawler before it got bombarded with ads and paid links when InfoSpace took over. The original owners of Webcrawler, called Excite, were actually offered all of Google for only $1 million, but Excite declined. To pour further salt into the wound, Google lowered their offer to $750,000, but they still weren't interested. Not even 10 years later, Google went public, and today they're earning $60 billion annually.
Wow.
Excite ended up getting merged with Ask.com in 2000.
Wow.
Number 9, 1859, back when shovels and picks were the tool of choice to dig up oil. Then along came Edwin Drake and his uncle, who invented the first ever oil drilling apparatus. When Drake approached some salt well diggers with his machine, they laughed and called him crazy. Very soon after, diggers realized how much of a gold mine it was. They rushed in and became overnight millionaires. And poor Drake forgot to patent the machine. But luckily, the state of Pennsylvania and oil barons paid him to express their gratitude. Number 8, Western Union, a big name in the communications industry during the late 1800s, with the president infamously scoffing at the idea of a telephone. For $100,000, he could have bought a patent that changed the world.
Wow.
But instead, he wrote a letter calling the phone invention an electrical toy with no commercial possibilities. 2 years later, the president of Western Union realized his gigantic mistake, so spiteful that he employed Thomas Edison to outdo it, which never really happened. Number 7, Microsoft Bob. Back before Windows 95, we had Windows 3.1 and this infamous piece of software known as Microsoft Bob. It was like Clippy from Microsoft Office, but 10 times more insulting. It displayed software icons as objects inside a house and was the software responsible for the text font Comic Sans. It might have been decent if it had not come out the same year as Windows 95, which incorporated an easy-to-use interface without the silly, dumbed-down experience. Number 6, there was a time when the corporate giant known as Apple worked in a garage, but when they went to Atari to sell their revolutionary personal computers, Atari said no. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the founders of Apple, even said, hey, it's built from your parts, and you can have the computer, just let us work for you. But still the answer was no. Apple now has a market value in the hundreds of billions of dollars, whereas Atari pretty much faded into obscurity. Number 5, 1962, a time before the Beatles were celebrities. They auditioned at Decca Records in London, and the executive of talent rejected their performance. He said to his manager, groups are out, and 4-piece groups with guitars are definitely finished. Unfortunately for him, over 2 billion Beatles albums sold all over the world during Beatlemania.
Wow.
It's hard to imagine that Coke has been around for over 100 years, but it was hard to foresee that when the producers of Coca-Cola introduced a new formula under the brand of New Coke, the backlash would be intense. But that's exactly what happened. Despite New Coke tasting fine, the emotional attachment built up over 100 years from a consistent brand was too deep, and customers exploded with fury. Within 3 months, New Coke was gone, and Coke Classic returned to enormously high sales thanks to the controversy. Some believe it to have been all planned, but it was probably just a happy coincidence. Number 3, a more recent one, the year 2000, when video rental stores were booming, Netflix offered itself to help Blockbuster sell their brand online. Blockbuster did not accept their offer and instead had a terrible 10 years while internet movies and TV shows became a thing.
Did you guys ever have Blockbuster?
I don't know.
It's like where you rented videotapes and movies, like a store where you rent movies.
Or like the one on by 7-Eleven.
Yeah, like a video shop. Yeah.
I think they had back in the days.
Yeah, back in the day. So did you hear what he said? Netflix offered to help them put their movies and this whole concept online, and they refused. And now today, all these types of video stores are totally, obsolete, non-existent because of Netflix and Amazon Prime and all of those. So yeah, it's bad business decision there, right? On their with their executives, they lost out.
Eventually, they had to file for bankruptcy in 2010. They could have bought Netflix for $50 million, and instead, their stubbornness made them crumble into nothing. Number 2, 1972, MASH became a surprise hit for 20th Century Fox, but then a couple of big stars dropped out after a few seasons, and Fox panicked. Foreseeing the show would not have long to live, they decided to sell rights for old seasons to various local TV stations, earning themselves $25 million. But then 4 years later, a thing Fox thought extremely unlikely happened. The show was still massively popular. Each TV station grossed over $1 million per ad episode out of 168 of them, and Fox got nothing out of that. Number 1, a story about one of the few times when marketing fails and customer support wins, a war between Kmart and Walmart in the 1980s. When both companies decided to duke it out, Kmart launched an all-out publicity campaign to raise public awareness of their store, and Walmart, without funds to beat them, decided to focus on improving stock-to-shelf efficiency and immediate checkouts. Walmart obliterated Kmart's sales in the US simply from good customer service, and Kmart has been struggling to keep up ever since. That's it for this countdown. Have a good one.
Wow. So interesting.
It is, ma'am. It is.
Nate, when I listen to this and you see some of the decisions these bigger companies have made, one decision can make or break your company or your organization. You can make millions or you can lose millions, right? By one single decision.
Yeah.
one of the things in business that's not easy to do is when an opportunity comes your way, is to be able to see an opportunity and know and like look ahead, look to the future and see how that opportunity, it might be a lot of money right now, but down the line, it could be a good investment. Like for instance, Jeff Bezos with Amazon, when Amazon first started and he started selling stuff online, people thought he was crazy. But he saw the opportunity that more and more people were going to have internet access and access to computers, and more goods are going to be sold online. And today, I mean, he's the richest man in the world because he saw the opportunity at the right time and said, you know what, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to run with this because I can see this is the future. And now imagine if he decided not to do that, you know, and he would have lost out on all that wealth that he's accumulated because of the decision that he made. And so I don't think it's an easy thing to do, to see an opportunity like that and to know whether it's going to be successful or it's going to fail. But I think if you have the vision and you can see the vision down the line, that the hard work, the investment and the opportunity now might be worth it. And so it's amazing how some of these people can see that, you know, like Jeff Bezos could see 20 years down the line how people would be buying clothes and shoes and food and garden equipment and everything under the sun that you can possibly imagine you can buy on Amazon, right?
That's right.
And because of that, because of Amazon alone, how many stores are closing and can't keep up? All these retail stores like Macy's and Kohl's and all of those, they're starting to close their stores down because they're just not keeping up with what's happened in the market. The market's changed. People are buying stuff online. It's just easier. It gets delivered to your house. It's so easy. You don't even have to get off your chair. And because they haven't adapted to the changing environment, they've taken too long to adapt, their companies are suffering. So that is a big business lesson, is you've got to know when and how to adapt. If you see things changing, don't wait and say, oh, I'm going to wait and see what happens. You've got to get in there. You've got to make changes. Otherwise, things come to an end for your company. You lose money, you lose market share, you lose customers, because the customers are going to go where all the excitement is and where all the changes, where the new things are. So you've got to keep things new and fresh, right? So very interesting video clip. I love watching stuff like that because it always amazes me. I try to understand, how did those people make those decisions that brought them so much wealth, right? Lucky guys. they had the vision.
They had the vision, and probably they're a strong mindset and motivation that can just come from nowhere, you know, because it is hard in this world, you know, to have ideas and work on it and probably try to prove people that it's worth it, you know. Probably they might not believe in that, but later on, like the example of the Amazon dude, he started, the dude from Amazon, he started his business, probably no one could believe he can get the money, you know, all the success that he has been doing all these years before his death, you know.
Exactly. Yikes. Yeah, so some decisions can be really good, some can be really bad and fatal to your company. But, you know, it's always a risk. Business is a risk. And, you know, we never know what the future is going to hold. We can only try to predict and see where things are going and to the best of our ability. But some people have the ability to be able to look down the road and see what's going to be a good investment, and how it will pay out in the end.
You know, what I kind of see all like everything, before to start an idea, you gotta just have a backup plan.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know if the thing is gonna be successful, and it's not all the people that can be successful in business, but as long you have a backup plan, that's good, you know, that's really good. And that's why usually before to get out of the state, because I usually have friends call me out, or can you move out of the state? I always tell them, what's the reason? What's the motives?
What's the motive, right? That's a very good word. What is your motive? Yeah.
Because you don't just move to another state because you see buildings or you see people or you see I don't know, some certain reason that's not probably that's not going to build my future, you know. And
Right.
that's the same way with when you're trying to make when you're trying to arrange a project or a business you're trying to open, you gotta have a backup plan. You gotta have motives. You gotta have a backup plan because it's not everything that's gonna work out.
Exactly. I like that what you're saying. It's good to have a plan and know what you want to do, but do you have a backup plan? And if you don't, you're putting yourself at huge risk and in trouble. So yeah, and often what that is called a contingency plan. Contingency plan means it's the backup plan if this doesn't work. And you know, they say that 50% of new businesses fail. 80% of those 50 fail within the first year that people start a new business, and 20% the next year, and 10% the next year. So starting a new business, it's not as easy as people think it may be. It is very difficult, in fact, and it has a 50% chance of failing. So I agree with you. You've got to have a good backup plan. Otherwise, you know, things could go horribly wrong, and then you are in a worse situation because now you're in debt. Now you owe people money, or you owe the bank money, and maybe even you are bankrupt, and then you're even in a worse situation, right? So I agree.
And
A contingency plan is very important.
that's right, man. That's right. This type of situation, and when something fails, I don't like to blame people, you know, because when you start a business, I think it's gonna affect you first of all, in case it fails. But when also the business is successfully done, it's gonna also the first person that's gonna affect.
Yeah.
It's gonna be yourself too. So.
Absolutely. No, I agree. That's really good. I love some of your discussions. This is very good. So as part of our in-class activities, that's what I'm doing. We're watching the videos. We have a little discussion about it and kind of analyze it. And so that will be part of our in-class activity participation points. The next video, it is a little bit long, but I think it's worth us watching. And I'm probably going to stop there because I think we have covered the 6 hats, which we did in an earlier session. So this one is why we make bad decisions. Okay, so it's important that we understand that we do make bad decisions. Sometimes we may not think our decisions are bad, but other people can see them, right? See that it's a bad decision. It's important that we listen to others around us when they say, hey, have you thought this through? This doesn't sound like a good idea. And let's just see in business, gosh, we will pay dearly if we make bad decisions. You know, you can still make a bad decision with your own finances. And like you said, the only person that's going to affect is you. But in a business, the impact will be on everybody and their families and on the entire organization. And it can just be disastrous. So let's take a look at this. This is by Dan Gilbert, Why We Make Bad Decisions. I really want to see why I make bad decisions because I know sometimes I do. We all do. But if we understand why and how, we can hopefully prevent a lot more bad decisions coming through our hands.
My name is Scott Harrison. And 13 years ago, I started an organization called Charity Water to bring clean and safe drinking.
I love TEDx talks. They're always so good.
We all make decisions every day. We want to know what the right thing is to do in domains from the financial to the gastronomic to the professional to the romantic. And surely if somebody could really tell us how to do exactly the right thing at all possible times, that would be a tremendous gift. It turns out that in fact, the world was given this gift in 1738 by a Dutch polymath named Daniel Bernoulli. What I want to talk to you about today is what that gift is, and I also want to explain to you why it is that it hasn't made a damn bit of difference. Now, this is Bernoulli's gift.
Wow.
This is a direct quote. And if it looks like Greek to you, it's because, well, it's Greek. But the simple English translation, much less precise, but it captures the gist of what Bernoulli had to say was this. The expected value of any of our actions, that is, the goodness that we can count on getting, is the product of 2 simple things. The odds that this action will allow us to gain something, and the value of that gain to us. In a sense, what Bernoulli was saying is if we can estimate and multiply these two things, we will always know precisely how we should behave. Now, this simple equation, even for those of you who don't like equations, is something that you're quite used to. Here's an example. If I were to tell you, let's play a little coin toss game, and I'm going to flip a coin, and if it comes up heads, I'm going to pay you $10, but you have to pay $4 for the privilege of playing with me, most of you would say, sure, I'll take that bet, because you know that the odds of you winning are 1/2. The gain, if you do, is $10. That multiplies to 5, and that's more than I'm charging you to play. So the answer is yes. This is what statisticians technically call a damn fine bet. Now, the idea is simple when we're applying it to coin tosses, but in fact, it's not very simple in everyday life. People are horrible at estimating both of these things, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. There are two kinds of errors people make when trying to decide what the right thing is to do, and those are errors in estimating the odds that they're going to succeed and errors in estimating the value of their own success. Now, let me talk about the first one first. Calculating odds would seem to be something rather easy. There are 6 sides to a die, 2 sides to a coin, 52 cards in a deck. You all know what the likelihood is of pulling the ace of spades or of flipping a heads. But as it turns out, this is not a very easy idea to apply in everyday life. That's why Americans spend more, I should say, they lose more gambling than on all other forms of entertainment combined.
Let me pause it, hold on.
The reason is, this isn't.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, can I step up for a little? I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be back.
Yeah, sure. Okay, how about we take just a 10-minute break and we'll be back at 5:15? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, awesome. Sure.